Hey Riftbounders, I'm John Mormon, Riftbound Sets Design Lead. I'm here to talk to you about Riftbound's first ever card bans. We know this is a big deal for players and we don't take it lightly, both because of the effect it has on your play experience and because this is the first time we're doing bans. Effective tomorrow, March 31st, the cards being banned are Called Shot, Draven Vanquisher, Fight or Flight, and Scrapheap. We are also banning 3 battlefields. Those are Dreaming Tree, Obelisk of Power, and Reavers Row. For those new to TCGs, this means players may not use any of these cards in constructed events. They are still playable if you are drafting or playing Sealed Riftbound. Banning 4 cards and 3 battlefields is a lot of shakeup, but our team feels strongly that these changes are merited. We will be watching how today's bans impact the game, and while we will of course follow community conversations about it, the social chatter is not a deciding factor in our decision making. Dave, our game director, has shared the team's philosophy around bans before, but it is worth revisiting them now that bans have actually arrived. Riftbound is still young. We are still figuring out when and why to ban cards. Origins and Spiritforge were both designed before the game fully launched, and we've learned a lot from seeing the game in your hands. As we watch how the competitive scene develops, we're gaining valuable knowledge that we didn't have when these cards were designed. Our philosophy remains that bans are not a decision we make lightly. Currently, here are the main factors that we consider when we think about bans. Number 1, is the card seeing too much play in a way that's unhealthy for the overall game? We don't ever want Riftbound to feel stale or predictable, so a single champion, domain, or play pattern should never dominate the metagame for a long period of time. Number 2, will the problems the card causes worsen over time? Cards that are inexpensive with strong synergies will only get stronger as we release more cards. We don't want these patterns to snowball, so we'd rather intervene as soon as the problem arrives to avoid future regrets. Number 3, does this card incentivize patterns of play that make the game less fun or cause other undesirable consequences? Cards being too strong isn't the only problem. The experience players have playing is just as important. Lots of players love that Riftbound is a complex game, but we don't want it to be overly long or frustrating to play, whether at your LGS or at bigger events. Now that we've covered the philosophy, let's talk about why these cards and battlefields were banned. First, Called Shot and Scrapheap. Both of these cards allow the player to filter through their deck and get ahead on cards without paying energy. That's way too efficient. Although today's bans will be a nerf to Chaos decks as a whole, these cards are being banned specifically to weaken Miracle decks. These decks have been very successful, but they take a large amount of game actions and time to execute. In tournament play, they contribute to round delays and can lead to one player sitting on their hands while their opponent's actions take up the entire clock. We don't feel like this style of deck is healthy for the game, and we don't want players who use Chaos Legends to feel like they have to lean into this style either, especially as this will only get worse as the card pool expands and cards that support this strategy get added. Now, let's talk about Draven Vanquisher. Draven midrange has proven itself both strong and more consistent than we consider healthy for the overall game. Draven decks have a lot going for them. They have a powerful legend, a strong champion, a highly efficient card pool, and some very synergistic battlefields. When a legend is this strong, it's a problem. If we ban a legend, it means we're banning everyone from playing that legend altogether. Instead, we want to find ways to downshift the power level of the decks while keeping the legend able to be played. The truth is that we underestimated Glorious Executioner, Draven's legend. This legend got out the door at a power level above other legends, having been designed before Origins had been released because we were moving fast to launch the game. Considering our various options for what to do led us to look at banning Draven Vanquisher. Playing Draven Vanquisher out of the champ zone gives these decks a strong turn 2 play every game, threatening to overpower most units your opponent could conquer with at that time. Mid-range Draven will still have his Audacious and Showboat champions as options from the champ zone, but weakening their early game should give new strategies a chance to fight back. While Draven has been overperforming, he's not the only Chaos champion leading the tournament pack, so we decided to make an additional ban that would impact the power of Chaos in general, Fight or Flight. Fight or Flight can sort of do it all for Chaos. End a combat, swing a conflict in your favor, protect an ally unit at a battlefield, and even sneak in an extra move trigger. It does all this at a cheap cost, making it a versatile tool that is also often the best at what it does. With this ban, we expect the overall power level of Chaos to drop, and also to see more diversity in the tricks Chaos decks bring to the table. Now let's talk about battlefields. They're an important part of Riftbound, but at the same time, they present some interesting design challenges. Because battlefields start and play, usually can't be modified or destroyed, and can be played by any champion or domain, They have a greater risk of overrepresentation and repetition than most cards. It's a fine line between this battlefield supports my strategy or tactic and this battlefield is defining the game. We feel the battlefields we're banning have crossed that line. With that in mind, here is a breakdown of the 3 battlefields we've chosen to ban and why we're banning them. First up, Reavers Row. Reavers Row lets the defender flee the fight, short-circuiting combat, which is Riftbound's primary point of interaction. Rather than having meaningful showdowns, players are incentivized to retreat. It's also disproportionately strong in Draven decks, where their opponents can't retreat without giving them a card, and in domains where conquering is stronger than holding. The second battlefield is Dreaming Tree. It lets a player draw a card when they choose a friendly unit there with a spell each turn. This provides substantial card draw because it is highly synergistic and can be used on either player's turn. Access to a certain volume of cards is an intentional strength or weakness of various domains, and Dreaming Tree upends this balance too consistently. Lastly, we're banning Obelisk of Power. This battlefield lets both players channel an extra rune at the beginning of the game and has become extremely common among the most powerful decks. When a player builds a deck, they need to account for the games in which they'll go first and the games in which they'll go second, so they need a variety of different energy cost cards in their decks. With Obelisk of Power, players can consistently expect to bypass this restriction, ensuring that they can play certain cards reliably, which reduces game diversity. All 3 of these battlefields are examples of our team learning the mechanics and power levels necessary for competitive play. They also represent important lessons that will impact our designs of battlefields going forward. Our expectation with today's bans is to shake up the metagame such that Miracle decks become less prevalent and that Draven and other Chaos strategies take a small step back to compete with other decks on more equal footing. We'll be reading your feedback, watching how tournaments go, and following how the metagame shifts in response to these changes. When the need for banning arises in the future, we'll continue to be proactive and transparent with you all. Thanks for watching, and see you on the Rift.